Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings because I love their free agency so far this offseason. Now, they still have to wait for the NFL draft to make some more moves, but Sam Darnold did lead the organization. And I do believe that Sam Darnold will have success with the Seattle Seahawks, but he will not have the same success with the Seahawks that he did with the Minnesota Vikings. We have to give Kevin O'Connell a lot of credit. We saw him go out there with Kirk Cousins. They made the NFL playoffs. Kirk Cousins was not the same quarterback with the Atlanta Falcons that he was in Minnesota Vikings. Granted, he tore his Achilles, but we saw a lot of bad moments with Kirk Cousins with the Minnesota Vikings. We saw some bad moments with Sam Darnold also, even though he got them to the NFL playoffs. What were those bad moments? Holding on to the football for a very long time. But a lot of those sacks were not on Sam Darnold. He was getting pressured a lot through the middle of the offensive line, and the fact that Christian went down against the Los Angeles Rams during the regular season, the big starting left tackle, also did not help out the offensive line. And Kevin O'Connell and the general manager, they have invested draft picks in the offensive line, but it has not materialized just yet. Only with Christian, who is one of the best left tackles in the game. And they made a trade to bring in Cam Robinson. Now, Cam Robinson is not a terrible player, but he's no Christian at all. So what do you do in free agency? The fact that Sam Darnold got to leave, it opened up more money for everyone else. Now you have flexibility because let's remember this. JJ is still in his rookie contract. You can load up your football team. We have seen teams do this in the past. When they feel like that they have their franchise guy, the Washington Commanders, they're doing that right now. They're loading up their football team with veterans because you can do that until it's time to pay that quarterback. So the fact that JJ's on this rookie deal, you can go out there and bring in pieces like this on this offensive line. Hopefully Christian can come back at the left tackle position, but you bring in Will Fries, a very good interior lineman from the Indianapolis Colts. When I look at the playoff losses with the Minnesota Vikings over the last few years, one of the biggest reasons is the fact that your offensive line has not been good enough against players like Jalen Carter, against players like Dexter Lawrence. Yes, the Minnesota Vikings lost against the New York Giants a few years back. That was a playoff game that got Daniel Jones paid. And you lost that game because your defense was terrible with Coach Ed, and also the fact that your offensive line could not block anyone in the interior. And when you run the type of system that Kevin O'Connell likes to run, you have to have strong offensive line pieces. Look at the Los Angeles Rams. He comes from that tree with Sean McVay. They have a strong interior offensive line. And we saw what happened when the offensive line pieces were not set into the right place. Matthew Stafford was beat up and banged up a lot after the year they won the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. The San Francisco 49ers, they run a similar system. They have to have strong offensive line pieces. So bringing in a veteran like Will Fries is going to help out, not only just in the pass game, but also in the run game. So you can set up those deep shots down the field to Justin Jefferson and to Jordan Addison. Because even though I love Kevin O'Connell, I think he's one of the best head coaches in the NFL. He's hit a wall so far in the playoffs. You can't continue to go out there and go one and done. You have to get physical up front. You have the skill position down to a T with TJ at the tight end position, with Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the game, and with Jordan Addison. But it's time to beef this team up, and that's what they're doing right now. It's easy to go out there and draft offensive linemen in the first and second round, but you have to develop them and hope that they can develop over time. You bring in these veteran pieces, they're ready to play right now. They have that NFL experience. They should still draft some offensive linemen in the second or third round if they want to. And they can sit those players behind those offensive linemen in Will Fries and also bringing in Ryan Kelly. Now, Ryan Kelly has missed time. He's not the same interior lineman that he was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he was phenomenal. He was one of the best centers in the NFL, and he is still one of the best interior linemen to have. I'm just worried about those injuries. But you bring him in with Will Fries, that's a very good duo to have alongside Christian, and you have Dalton Reisner at the right guard position. This should be enough to be able to go out there and run the football on a consistent basis with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones had over 1,500 total yards on the season. 1,138 rushing yards on the year. That was the ninth most in the NFL. And he had 5 rushing touchdowns. You have to go out there and be physical up front. All of the teams that make deep playoff runs, for the most part, they have very good offensive linemen and they have a run game that can carry them over the top. And when you look at JJ, I'm going to say a lot of things about JJ towards the end of this video. You have to put him in the right situation with running the football. Because when we look at his college highlights and when you look at him on film, he wasn't able to just go out there and carry the team on his back because he didn't need to with Michigan. They ran the football a lot with Donovan Edwards and also with Blake Corum. So he comes over to the NFL. You want a similar playing style. Those wide receivers, they're going to get open. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, they're going to do their thing. And the same with TJ. But you want to take some of that pressure off of JJ. This is one of the best situations for a quarterback to enter into as a young player. He missed all of his rookie season dealing with a torn meniscus. As a matter of fact, let's talk about JJ right now instead of towards the end of the video. The thing is this with JJ McCarthy. JJ came over from Michigan. Coach Harbaugh was his head coach. So you already know what Coach Harbaugh loves to do. If you don't, he loves to run the football. He's an old school coach. He likes to run his offense from college like it's the 70s and the 80s. And I don't have a problem with that. They won a national championship. And most scouts were saying that JJ was overrated because of that. But we also saw JJ have some big time moments at the college level. If it was the third down, if it was 3rd and 10, if they got behind schedule, he'll go out there, throw an absolute dime. You don't want to put all that pressure on a young quarterback, but considering the fact that I saw Sam Darnold, a journeyman in the NFL, have a huge year with Kevin O'Connell. You look at Kirk Cousins. He had some success in the past with the then Washington Redskins, but he comes over to the Minnesota Vikings. He's one of the better quarterbacks that you can have. Now, he was never a top 5 quarterback with the Minnesota Vikings skill set wise, but he always put up good numbers. You have a young athletic quarterback in JJ because he can move around. He's not physically imposing. He doesn't have the same skill set as a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen, but that accuracy and the fact that he can move around, that's going to help you out. And I'm telling you guys this right now. JJ can move around. He could pick up some key first downs with his legs. But this is one of the best situations I have ever seen a player enter into with the wide receiving core that he has, a brand new and improved offensive line, a veteran running back, and a very good tight end. Now, you look at TJ from the previous season. He had a down year, but he was coming off a torn ACL. We know what he is when he's fully healthy. When we hear names like Brock Bowers, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, TJ can be put into the same conversation. He was a great tight end when he was fully healthy with the Minnesota Vikings, and he was amazing with the Detroit Lions. That's one of those rare trades to where both teams came out happy. The Detroit Lions, they came out with more draft capital. You get Sam Laporta. He's a top receiving tight end. And the Minnesota Vikings, they get a receiving threat in TJ, who can also be a very good run blocker at times. So when I look at this situation with JJ, even though you missed all your rookie season because you had a torn meniscus, you were going to miss all your rookie season anyway sitting behind Sam Darnold. That was the plan. They wanted Sam Darnold to come in, basically take the reins for 1 year. That's why it was a 1-year contract, $10 million. Now, no one saw Sam Darnold going out there and playing like an MVP at the time. The system, he benefited a lot from being in the system with Kevin O'Connell. When I look at JJ, it's time to go out there and it's time to hit. We've seen Patrick Mahomes in year number 2. That was his first full year as a starter. And I'm not trying to say that JJ's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. They had weapons in place. We saw this with Jordan Love. They waited a couple of years. They had weapons in place. Aaron Rodgers with the Minnesota Vikings. They had weapons in place. Shout out to the general manager and shout out to Kevin O'Connell. But it's time for JJ to hit the road. As soon as it's week 1, as soon as it's time to start the season, you need to see that production immediately. Because even though he was still recovering from that torn meniscus in his knee his rookie season, you can still look at the playbook. You're still on the sideline. You're still paying attention to what Sam Darnold is doing. You're not practicing because you're taking care of your knee. And I do believe that was just a fluke injury by him. He didn't struggle with major injuries in college. Injuries happen. It's the NFL. But if he could stay fully healthy, and if he could sit back and learn from Sam Darnold like he should have been doing his rookie season, I could see the Minnesota Vikings still being a major threat in this division. The only difference is this. He's going to be on that rookie contract for a very long time. And you can exercise that 5th-year option because he is a first-round pick. And I did have a question in a video that I uploaded yesterday. First-round picks, you can exercise the 5th-year option. If you're not a first-round pick, you cannot exercise that 5th-year option. It basically gives you a year of flexibility. Some teams, they like to pay their quarterbacks early because it saves money later on. But having that 5th-year option is very crucial for most first-round picks, especially if you're a quarterback, a wide receiver, or an offensive lineman. So they have a lot of cap flexibility moving forward. They still have money to play with. And we're just talking about the moves they made on the offensive end. When I look at the defense, they went out there and they also signed Jonathan Allen because their offensive line in the interior was a major problem over the last 8 years. Let's just be honest here. But their defensive line has always been so weird to me because you have very good run stoppers at the defensive tackle position, but you never had those true pocket pushers. Now you bring in Jonathan Allen, very good against the run. He can push the pocket. Javon Hargrave, they're expected to bring him in. Javon Hargrave is not a good run stopper. We saw that with the Steelers. We saw this with the Philadelphia Eagles, but he is amazing against pressuring the quarterback. You need to bring him in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 10. Rotational player. He's been dealing with some injuries over the last couple of years of his career. He's still a very good defensive tackle to have, but you go out there, you bring him in those rotation situations with Jonathan Allen, you're going to be on to something. Because we just saw what Matthew Stafford was able to do. He had a lot of time just stepping up inside the pocket in the interior. You need to have a consistent, strong defensive line. You did lose Pat Jones. He's now with the Carolina Panthers. That's not a huge loss because you still have good players that can come in and give you very good pass rush. Jonathan Grenard was very good this year. And you got him from the Houston Texans. He had 12 sacks on the season, 2 forced fumbles. You have Andrew Van Ginkel, who was a do-it-all linebacker, 11.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions. He had a great year. He had 2 pick six against the New York Jets and 1 against the New York Giants. And this is also why you selected Dallas Turner in the first round. Did not play much this season. He was great at Alabama. A young player, you can exercise that 5th-year option. You drafted him in the first round with JJ. He fits the system with Brian Flores, who is coming back for yet another season. And Brian Flores is a tremendous, tremendous defensive coordinator. As a head coach, very questionable. But as a defensive coordinator, he's awesome. And we saw the Minnesota Vikings finally be stout against the run this previous season. They're going to only get better by adding in veteran pieces like Javon Hargrave, like Jonathan Allen. You have Harrison Phillips, who is very good against the run. He's more so one-dimensional. He's not going to go out there and push the pocket on a consistent basis. He only had 2 sacks on the year. But when you're talking about a nasty defensive tackle that's big, that can stop the run and eat up double teams, that is what he's going to do. And you have Jonathan Bullard, who is also known for stopping the run. Blake Cashman is a very good player. You have Ivan Pace Jr. I like his game a lot. You have a young front seven mixed in with some veteran players. But I'm really excited to see what Dallas Turner can do. But you have Dallas Turner, Andrew Van Ginkel, who you can move around and give different looks up front. I love that move. Love Andrew Van Ginkel. Fits the system with Brian Flores to a T. Remember, Brian Flores drafted him when he was the head coach with the Miami Dolphins. And I look at the secondary. You are bringing back Byron Murphy Jr. Great deal. You can say that he's overpaid a tad bit. It's just a 2-year contract on the surface. It's not a major deal. It's not going to break the team. He has 6 interceptions, 14 pass deflections. When we look at cornerbacks, this is a weird position because some cornerbacks, they go out there for 2 to 3 years, they're dominant. Then they fall off a cliff. I think that Byron Murphy has come into the right system. He was a solid player with the Arizona Cardinals. He deserves his money. If it isn't overpay, you can move off the contract. You guys know what NFL general managers like to do. You kick it into a signing bonus. You can do things like that. It's not a make or break deal, but to bring him back is awesome. And you have to get physical in this division because the Detroit Lions, they set the tone. They want to be physical. Look at the Chicago Bears. They're building their offensive line. Look at the Green Bay Packers. They're building their offensive line. All of these teams are trying to build through the trenches, and that is what you should do. When I look at the Minnesota Vikings, you already have the pretty weapons on the outside. And the same at the cornerback position. Do you want to bring back Stephon Gilmore or not? I think that you should. He's not the same Stephon Gilmore that he was with the New England Patriots, but he's a very good player still. Very good veteran. Especially that game that he had against the New York Jets. Basically, the Minnesota Vikings defense went out there and he dominated the New York Jets overseas in London. They dominated so well, they got Robert Saleh fired. And they made Woody Johnson just go on a rampage with his organization. That is how good this defense was this season. They do have to do a better job of covering the running back out of the backfield because I promise you this, if I see Kyren Williams go out on a motion and he's in the slot and a linebacker doesn't pick him up in the red zone again, that's going to be a major problem. Brian Flores has to do a better job of trying to stop that play because you have a lot of running backs in this conference. Christian McCaffrey when he's fully healthy. Kyren Williams, and you have Saquon. They can motion out, they can play mini wide receiver. And the same with Alvin Kamara with the New Orleans Saints, even though the New Orleans Saints are not on the same page as the Minnesota Vikings, but you guys get my gist. You have to stop the running backs in the receiving situations with your linebackers. And the players have to pick up on that type of motion. But hopefully bringing in defensive tackles like this means that Brian Flores doesn't have to blitz as much, because it did hurt the secondary at times. And we saw this against the Los Angeles Rams. But one of the biggest reasons to why the Minnesota Vikings have flamed out in the playoffs is the fact that they have not been physical enough in the interior of the defensive line and also with their offensive line. But bringing in these veteran players should definitely help out with that. Hopefully JJ McCarthy can come in day one and he can be a great quarterback option with the Minnesota Vikings. But we're going to find out very soon, because this is not a situation to where JJ is going to a team that had one of the worst records in the NFL. The only reason why the Minnesota Vikings had top picks in the NFL draft last year is the fact that Kirk Cousins went down with a torn Achilles injury. He was leading the league in passing touchdowns before he suffered that torn Achilles injury. And it opened up that window of opportunity to go out there and have a lower pick, and JJ slid to you. But JJ's walking to an awesome situation. If he can't get things done within the first 5 weeks of the regular season, that's not going to be a good sign. But knowing Kevin O'Connell, he's a former quarterback. He's a backup quarterback to Tom Brady. He knows his system. He knows how to get the best out of the quarterback position. They'll be okay. And shout out to the general manager once again for the Minnesota Vikings. But let me know in the comment section below how you feel about the Minnesota Vikings so far in free agency. And do you think that JJ can be the franchise quarterback long term? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.